Hi, and welcome to the April 2024 installment of the Microsoft Product Licensing Terms update from the version 1 software asset management practice. How's everyone doing today?
Good, thanks.
Good, Carl.
Yeah.
Great, good stuff. So there's only a few short updates this month. It's a relatively quiet month for product terms versus some of the changes we've seen over the last number of months. I'll get straight into it, and maybe I'll just talk a little bit about the changes to Office 365 and Microsoft 365 Teams and the unbundling of Teams. So if you remember back, I think it was in 2023, at one point we discussed and talked about how Microsoft had planned to unbundle Teams for Microsoft 365. And I think that was generally regarded as a kickback from the competition complaint filed by Slack against Microsoft with the European Commission as far back as July 2020. And I think that the backbone of that complaint was that they were alleging that Microsoft was engaging in illegal and anti-competitive practices and all that sort of fun stuff to give Teams a dominant market position. So fast forward from that, we did see some unbundling of Teams with Microsoft 365, Office 365 within the European Economic Area. But in this month's product terms, we're seeing that now be reflected on a global basis, where Microsoft are, unbundling Teams from various different Microsoft 365 and Office 365 SKUs. So what does that all mean? Well, it means, first of all, that Teams has gotten a little bit more complicated in terms of how you license it. So we can thank Slack for that, or Salesforce. But in real terms, what does it actually mean? So it now means that when you're, so if you are, and I suppose this is probably the first thing to caveat, is if you are a net new customer, you've never used Office 365 or Microsoft 365, when you go to purchase a license for Microsoft 365 or Office 365, depending on the flavor that you're going for, you're going to be presented with a SKU that doesn't include Teams. And then it'll be up to you to purchase Teams on a ad hoc basis and attaching it to those licenses. If you're a customer and you already have Microsoft 365 licenses or Office 365 licenses that include Teams, then there's going to be no change here, and there's going to be no change on renewal, which, sometimes we've seen that in the past, where Microsoft will make a licensing change and it doesn't impact you until you come to renew your enterprise agreement or renew your licenses. So that's not the case here. So it's very much business as usual if you already hold those licenses. One important point on that, though, is if you're an organization, you're inadvertently to let your subscriptions lapse and then you go to resubscribe again, that I'm assuming is going to create some complexity for you, because you're going to end up having to license then the unbundled version of Office 365 or Microsoft 365 and acquire Teams on a separate basis. But if you're a net new customer, as I mentioned, never bought 365 products before, then you're going to be forced into that, buying Teams on a separately, should I say. So what does that mean then in terms of pricing? So as you can guess, my assumption on this is that when you've got a separate line item, a separate SKU, there's obviously going to be some operational overhead for Microsoft in managing that. And so as a consequence, there is a slight increase in the cost of Teams when you're purchasing it standalone. When you're purchasing it standalone, what that cost increase looks like depends on the type of M365 license or O365 license that you're attaching it to. So the cost increase compared to, say, some of the more premium suites of M365 versus, say, Office 365 suites with less features, it's going to be more expensive to attach, as you could guess, Teams to those O365 subscriptions than it would be to attach it to a M365 subscription. So, quite a lot of complexity, and the announcement might throw some customers. If you really wanted it, and you already have M365 or O365 licenses with Teams, there's nothing stopping you from purchasing that license without Teams included, and maybe that might actually give you a marginal cost benefit if you have no compelling reason for using Teams. But I guess given how integrated into the Microsoft stack Teams is, there's probably going to be very few customers that will benefit from that. So yeah, so that was pretty much the update on the unbundling of Teams from M365 and O365 licenses.
So I'll jump in. So, Carl, on
Sure.
there was an announcement made on the 9th of April where Microsoft said that they're adding kind of SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc. Now Azure Arc is the kind of the hybrid kind of management for kind of all kind of multi-clouds, on-premise, etc. You know, from Microsoft. So what that actually means is, you know, what they're saying is that if you're using SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc with, you know, your license with software assurance or a subscription license or your classic, you know, bring your own license, as opposed to pay as you go subscription, then you're only entitled to run that SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc on your own devices or servers or on an outsourcer other than a listed provider, right? And secondly, if you're using SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc and you've licensed, you know, all the physical cores kind of for unlimited virtualization under as a pay-as-you-go subscription, you're also only entitled to run that SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc again on your own, you know, servers or devices or in a third party other than, you know, the listed provider. And a reminder, who are the listed providers? It's key, you know, the key ones are, the only ones are AWS, Google and Alibaba. And of course, Microsoft put themselves in there, but of course we know that they give themselves more favorable kind of terms. And then the second one, which kind of appeared on the 1st of April, and that is where the Microsoft Intune license availability table just got a whole lot bigger when I was looking at it, because you know, they've added kind of frontline worker SKUs to the availability in the prerequisites table, and it's definitely pretty extensive. Like, I mean, the qualifying Intune frontline worker licenses that they've included are Enterprise Application Management Frontline Worker, Advanced Analytics Frontline Worker, Cloud PKI Frontline Worker, Intune Plan 2 Frontline Worker, Remote Help Frontline Worker, Intune Suite Frontline Worker, and Microsoft Intune Endpoint Privilege Management Frontline Worker. So it's you know, and again, look, all those licenses are subject to the eligibility kind of for frontline worker terms and conditions. So yeah, essentially, you know, that's what kind of I looked at this month. So thanks, Carl.
Great stuff. So lots more SKUs to play with. So William, last but not least, maybe we want to go through some of the updates that you focused on.
Yeah, there was just a couple. So so the privacy and security terms, this is for Defender for Identity. That's just been added as a core online service. So it just means it's added to the policies table and location of customer data at rest clause, just to bring it in line with the rest of the Defender products. And the other one's this, it's a new product, so Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management, or SCM Premium. This has been added to the availability and prerequisites and mentioning purchasing minimums tables, meaning you've got to buy 10 as a minimum threshold. But essentially what SCM Premium is, it's an advanced capability product built on top of the current supply chain management module within Dynamics 365. And amazingly, it's all around Microsoft Copilot and helping, as they say, for users to adapt quickly to demand shifts with new demand planning capabilities, all powered by Copilot. But it's got a $300 per user per month entry level, and you've got to have 10 of those as a minimum threshold. So probably quite a high-end niche market, but I'm sure Microsoft have done the sums and worked out that by adding in Copilot, it's going to provide a return on investment, no doubt. And that was my two.
Very good. So short and sweet this month, but still some interesting updates there nonetheless. If you have any questions off the back of today's session, or if you have any Microsoft licensing related queries in general, feel free to reach out to us here at the Software Asset Management Practice in version 1. Not only Microsoft related licensing queries, we can also help with a broad range of other software vendors should you need some support on that front. So thanks, Niamh, thanks, William. Until next month's product licensing terms update, we'll talk to you then. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.